Hi, this is Ms. Perez, and I'll be doing a video for combining functions in your practice test. First thing I want to cover is if you're not familiar with the GCF, which is greatest common factor, stop here, go back and review that concept, contact a teacher, ask for a video or a tutoring session. You will need this concept to pass your mastery test, okay? So we'll go over that when we come through it in this video, but it's definitely something you need. So, okay. Richard exports apples harvested on his farm every year. The number of apples harvested from orchard A after T months is represented by the function f of t equals 25 times 3 to the power of t. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. That is a whole lot of information, a whole lot of reading, lots of words. Already, I'm not sure, it gets my head gets a little jumbled. So what I like to do on these real world scenarios is kind of just take everything sentence by sentence and write out what I know, if it's useful. And by the time I get to the actual question, I'll be ready for it and I have all the information I need. Okay, so let's do that. I really highly recommend that. So if you're a person likes steps, step one to this would just be, write down info in a condensed way. Okay, so Richard exports apples harvested in his farm every year. Good to know, but there's no real concrete information there. The number of apples harvested from orchard A after T months is, okay, so here's a big word that you should be aware of. It's not every word is, but when you're taking real world situations and you're trying to convert them into an equation, this word definitely look out for is. Whenever you see this word is, and especially if it says is represented by, then that means equals. So all this stuff before it equals, this. So, and I do math all the time, so it's easy for me to spot. But I think it'd really help you to know some vocabulary, particularly this word is. Okay, so let's see what it's saying again. The number of apples harvested from orchard A. So I'm going to write that down. So apples from orchard A is, again, this magic word is represented by this function. So I'm going to write equals, because it says is, 25 times 3 to the t. Now you might say, Ms. Perez, why aren't you writing f of t? Well, I did. I just represented it differently. This is f of t. This is just different notation. F of t equals 25 times 3 to the t power. That's the whole function. I'm just replacing it with a little bit of detail that I like to see. Okay. So same thing, you write as much detail as you need so you understand it. For me, it's just orchard A equals that expression. Okay, so this is done. Good. Let's move on to the next sentence. The number of apples harvested from orchard B after T months is represented by the function. So again, this magic word is, so orchard B equals this function. Okay, so I'm going to write that. Orchard B equals 10 times 4 to the t power. Okay, and if you need to write this piece, t months, t equals months, go ahead and do it. For me, it's a little intuitive, t equals time, months, however you want to say it, but if that's going to help you remember, in context of t, go ahead and do that. Okay, so this is done. Boom. Look, now we're on to the question. So let's look at this piece. The total number of apples harvested. So again, another magic word, total. The total number of something. The total number of apples harvested from both orchards can be represented by function E. All right, they don't give you function E. That's what you're trying to come up with. So you're trying to come up with function E. Well, what is E? Let's go back. What does the sentence say? The total number of apples is function E. So the total number, total apples. So how would we find total apples, right? How do we find a total apples? Well, if I were to give, orchard A an actual number instead of an expression, that might be easier to think about. So if I said, orchard A, let's say orchard A, this is just hypothetical. This is side notes right here. If I said orchard A equals, 10, it was 10 apples. and I said orchard B produced, 5 apples. If I told you that and asked you, okay, well, now find the total, what would you do? What's the total equal? Well, I'm pretty sure you would tell me, well, that's just 10 plus 5. Pretty easy, right? So that's what I want you to do. I want you to think about this, in very simple terms, because it's the same operation. Even though we're dealing with expressions and not, numbers, it's still the same thought process. So if you give yourself a numeric value, and then you could come up with the solution, it's the same process, okay? So to find the total number of apples, we add, okay? That's pretty simple, we add. Well, we're gonna do the same thing with our expressions, okay? So don't freak out, we're just, gonna use the same process, only with our expressions, okay? Hopefully that was helpful and not more confusing, okay? So the process we're going to do is add to find the total number of apples. So to find the total number of apples, we're going to add orchard A plus orchard B, right? That's how we define the total number, is just addition. Well, now we're just going to plug in these things. What do we know about orchard A? Well, we know it equals 25 times 3 to the t power. So let's just plug that in. 25 times 3 to the t power plus orchard B. Well, what do we know about orchard B? We know it equals 10 times 4 to the t power. Okay, so we have our total number of apples. Expression, sweet. Now let's look at our answers. Oh no, they're nowhere to be found. The answer's not there. Not to worry, you didn't do anything wrong, or I didn't do anything wrong. This is where the GCF comes in, what I was talking about earlier, that you're going to need to do this on several practice test questions, which means you're probably going to have to do it in the mastery test question. So that's why it's great to review. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at each term. And again, if you're not familiar with these vocabulary words I'm using, please review. So what I'm going to have you do, is look at each term, which are separated by pluses and minuses, so it's here, and think about what is the greatest common multiple or greatest common factor with these two numbers out front, right next to the parentheses. So we have a 25, and a 10. Okay, so if you're not that great at multiples, you could definitely use a calculator, but for time's sake, 25, can be broken up into 5 times 5, and 10 can be broken up into 5 times 2. Okay, sometimes it takes a little bit longer than this to find the greatest common factor, but I'm just going to show it to you here. Practice makes you better at it. So you can see that the greatest common factor is 5. Okay, so I'm going to put that to the side. GCF equals 5. Okay, so once you have identified the GCF, you're pretty much just going to pull that out of each term. And by pulling it out, I mean you're dividing by it. So let me get a different color here. So I'm going to do divide by 5. I'm dividing by 5. Okay, and when I do that, it gets pulled out. So 5, and it goes on the outside. So 5 goes on the outside now. Well, what's left? 25 divided by 5 is 5. And everything else stays the same. Plus, okay, same thing. I'm pulling out a 5, which means I'm dividing by it. 10 divided by 5 is 2. And I'm left with everything here. All right, and now we're done. Now we can see that it is right, let's see, right here, this one. So this one goes here, and my 5 goes on the outside, right there. So this one. Okay. Again, practice your GCF if you're not familiar with it. I can definitely make you a video to help you with that. Greatest common factor gets pulled out, which means you divide. It doesn't not magically disappear. It just gets pulled out to the outside. Okay. Hopefully this video is helpful. Please give me some feedback, anything that I can do if I need to go slower, a little bit more background knowledge. I'd love to hear it. Thank you.